Hello and welcome back, my friends. More hardcore vanilla Minecraft with me, Hambbage. It's starting right now. And check out the Farlands. No, let's let's not walk forever. We're in hardcore. we got other things to do. And we do have a shared savannah. Closest is we're gonna get to the deep of the Farlands. So yeah, without teleport, nah, don't think so. So, where are we at? What's a recap? We are in the midst of a little bit of light terraforming as we cook up our cobble into stone and our stone into smooth stone. We want to use that at least for the outer casing of our, uh, uh, you know, darkroom spawner. That's what we're talking about. So we had just unloaded the stoves in the last one. We're slowly but surely converting over what we've got. Got a little bit more stone here to set into stone. Man, I am. It's literally been about 10 minutes or so since the end of the last episode. I don't know that I could have completely lost my mind or capacity to speak since then. We'll knock the rust off here. We'll get going. Um, no, we have been busy on kind of mind-numbing otherwise activities, and for anybody who's not particularly down, I get it. You're welcome to skip in chunks forward. I would recommend keeping an eye out because I never know when I'm going to change my mind about stated intended plans or anything like that. Kind of think that might be no, maybe it's just trees. I was thinking maybe we had an Enderman back there in those birches, but no. So our sugarcane needs should be fully met here when that row is finished. We're going to drop in as much of this dirt as we can to expand out our fields. Think, we'll get 2 more rows out of. Where did you come from, buddy? Come on. Why are they so trolly at the moment? That last one that dropped in the pond. Oh, you know what they want? They want creeper games. Dun 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 dun. Come on, buddy. Where did he go? What? Stop trolling me, dude. Come here. Hit this creeper. Stop getting distracted by being on fire. Ugh. Is this another one with an enchanted bow? Are you still coming? See, now, I think maybe. Oh, where's he? Come on. Oh no, come on, man. Don't catch on fire and then. Oh, now he sticks with it. Shoot this creeper, dude. No. Got a bat out here causing trouble. Did this other guy die, or did he retreat? He died too. That was a terrible round of creeper games. We got one more chance here. Creeper, come on. This one's higher stakes because the terrain is not as good. Are you? It's like they're on to me. Where did he go? Come here, dude. I got this creeper I need you to shoot. Now you're hidden again. Now, come on, man. That's a very bad activity. Oh, now he's going to run around again. Yeah! Woo! Creeper Skelly Games win #1 cat. Isn't the cat the one we can get in all the chests? That seemed like a waste, but awesome. And we only have like 18 arrows stuck in us. Perseverance, my friends. Perseverance pays off. And anybody that just ducked out because they were like, oh, terraforming and books. Oh, I'm too cool for books. Ha! You guys missed out on all that awesomeness. Let's... I don't know where the zombie is. Let's go in front of our... Oh, come on. Yeah. Skelly Creeper Games. Skelly Creeper Games. What do I got to do? I got to get that back on. That's what I mean. I'm so excited about my new disc. Dun, 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 dun. Skelly Creeper Games. The new, fun, fantastic wave sweeping the nation. And a great way to entertain yourself while waiting for stone to cook. So, inspired as we were by the read more books splash screen on Minecraft Load, we here at Hambbage love books. We being me, but I like to include you guys. So I hope you love books too, because you're all part of the Hambbage team. Now I've always loved reading, and as we talked about in the last episode, started at a very early age. Since I was a kid, loved stories and books and the way that the worlds open up to your imagination. But yeah, as a kid, we kind of left off on going from Hardy Boys and one of the early biographies of my dad's books that I grew up on, which was Reach for the Sky. Definitely recommend you check it out, although I kind of recapped a lot of the plot early on. I then kind of moved into a wider, as fitting, probably junior high type age. I'm into much more diverse range of books, and those included certainly the Louis L'Amour westerns that I talked about a little bit last time, but a couple highlights out of those. I'd mentioned a series that kind of expanded, much like Stephen King, which is how we kind of got into just talking about this. Expanded a universe between multiple shorter stories about an individual character or setting or whatever, a few hundred pages of kind of dime store wow pulp. Wow, I don't know if this is allergies or what. Again, the pig roast was kind of at the farm where we had the hay moving a few weeks ago, and it was beautiful and fun, but may have got me a kind of bit of allergies or something. I don't know what's going on. This twice today though, I've had just like these explosive little coughs. Arrows should really be over in the other chest here. gunpowder, not so much. We got good supplies there too. Anyway. Dun 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 dun. Dun. Let's. Should we be repetitive? What was the stone cutter? Was that the one that needed the smooth? Just stone and iron. Somewhere we had some stone, right? Stone cutter. Where are we going to put this? Right here. Boop. And I think we did the... Okay, we're pretty full. Yeah, that's too much. Let's get a couple extra here. Let's do that there. Let's focus on what we need. Oh, no. Okay. Whew. Oh, we're down to a 4 top. We have retired one of our Ferni. Yeah, it was pretty much all fun and games until now. Oh, we only have 11. Oh, no. 3. Oh my goodness. We gotta go mining. At least we're not cooking any more here. So no new cobble. I don't think I made that mistake, did I? Okay, those are all not going backwards. All right, good. So we're all good there. If we do this, I think we did tiles last time, right? Ooh, should we do some polished? Yeah, let's do polished this time. How about that, huh? You guys down with that? It'll be... That's, of course, an extra click. Oh, listen. And no, like, book to speed us along. Come on. What? I don't know why that was so difficult. Now, if I do these, can I still do... Okay, so it'll let me do everything but the original again. So we can still do the walls and the slates and everything if I just turn these all in. That's good. So let's keep doing that. So yeah, Louis L'Amour books, the Sackets were a favorite kind of recurring, and that was what I was talking about with the longer series of even westerns. Kind of introduced me to that idea that, you know, obviously I talked about the Hardy Boys being an early favorite as a little boy, or a younger boy, but the Sackets kind of taught me to, you know, longer stories that tied together in a, kind of a universal sense. Uh, and added some flow or some continuity to stories that were otherwise completely disjointed. You didn't have to read one to know the others. Hardy Boys, you also didn't, but they didn't. They were much more standalone. There wasn't you would never specifically be able to say this book came before this one. There was a progression or a flow there. There weren't dependencies one on the other. In a larger historical sense, there were in some of Louis L'Amour's books. It was somebody that lived back in Restoration era England, or even before, right? That were kind of adventure piratey stuff, and then the age of colonialism in the Americas, moving on and on and on until the descendants of those people were out cowboys on the American frontier, but it had these different windows. And a lot of his stuff that was not traditional, just Western novels, really inspired me. And I found that one of those, this should go in a special place. We don't need to carry it around though. One of those that did not come together it has to be, it's not great literature or anything like that. It's not life changing, but it has to be among my maybe top 10 books ever. And that is Louis L'Amour's The Walking Drum. And it was one of his last books ever. He was planning to do I don't know that it necessarily was, but he'd written it and was supposedly working on a sequel to it with the same characters. But it was in the 12th century Europe, and dealt with, history that from Westerns I didn't really consider too much. It was not exactly knights, but there were merchant caravans and seafarers and feudal lords and things like that, all around the Mediterranean and throughout Europe. So cool in its scope, but again, not so depth. You didn't need, you weren't questioning historical validity, but was digestible at a young age and still intriguing. Now I did include the sugarcane. We're not going to keep this as sugarcane. It will eventually be turned into larger fields. And we also will use this to double check our math and our layout. So we're just doing some early, again, I'd called it busting out the surveyor stakes. So we'll use this. Ooh, that looks kind of cool. I'd never even made one of these, much less placed them yet. So we obviously have work to do there. Uh-oh. I thought we were clear on this tree. That's okay. I think we'll fit. It's going to be a funky looking tree. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we can even get 2 in. Oh, that's awesome. And we still haven't seen these bees, so unless we get some new arrivals, I think we're in trouble. Well, that's pretty good. Now, let's do this. So this full stack should run us all the way back. And I can't remember if we gave a border on this other end or not. Can't argue. We're not going long, I can tell you that. And, oop, I think that was one too many, right? This is why we prepare. This is why I lose track on my stories and topics of conversation that you guys love so much. So anyway, books. And Louis L'Amour's Walking Drum, of all his books, one of my absolute favorites. It moved with me when, as an adult, I moved back out to Colorado. And Out of My Childhood Home was one of the ones that I brought, and it's dog-eared and beat to death. I've read it so many times, and for just a typical paperback, it was pretty welcome. But oh yeah, I never filled those two in. Okay, so that's 64 internally, and then we can run a nice little double thing on this side as well. We'll leave the bit right here. Seal off the water there. So this is going to set us up for our water flow. And again, that was good. It's good that we were so off. I don't know how we got so off on our counting. Who knows? But 1, 2, 3, 4. So this will let us have water. 1, 2, 3, 4. These will be our decked in tiles. Yeah, I never know where those bees go when they decide to relocate. Why? One of life's mysteries, I guess. Yeah. Well, fighting the current. Come on. Fighting the current. Wow. No. Wonder how long these take to break. I guess we'll find out. Oh. Probably doesn't matter, but I prefer not to have water underneath, just in case creeper or something like that can make it tragic instead of just oops when something goes haywire. Oh. Okay, so now that we're... Oh, no. I forgot to stop. Now that we don't have to think about it, I can start talking about books again. No, don't talk about books until we've got this figured out. No, we'll talk. So, at about that same time, because I'm kind of getting this, like, history vibe from the just cowboy action stories, lighthearted, stuff of Louis L'Amour, I'm much more accessible to some of the lighter classics of literature. I'm talking like Three Musketeers, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Count of Monte Cristo, some of those kind of books that I really started reading probably before my level, and not getting some of the depth of meaning, but I could digest all the adventure-y stuff out of them. And other historical books that kind of fit out that, and I think, some of these will all fit into a range of times, but I know, the old Legends of Robin Hood and King Arthur stuff, all that had its time and place. Um, a lot of Mark Twain stuff I read as a kid. And again, some of these were books that my mom had read to us previously. Okay, so now we're gonna kind of chill and cook in the stone. We'll just finish laying this stuff out on the following day after we sleep. But yeah, I think we've got as much as we can afford to cook right now because we can't run out of coal if we have to backtrack. What we'll do is do another mine run, and again, this is why it pays to kind of hang out in the stream. We'll see how much of this we can use up. It does go quick, doesn't it? Put this back into our sugarcane bank. Got some more bones. Got some more arrows. I don't think we're going to see the bees, so we might as well put those poppies away. And I don't know, as soon as I do this, we'll need them again. But I don't know that we're going to need ladders at this point. So, let's sleep. Tools, how are we doing? Good enough. That's not the bed. Yeah. So yeah, lots of what you would consider the classics as I was growing up. Also, as I've said, I don't have any shame in it. I was certainly raised Presbyterian, so Protestant Christian background, and growing up in that into junior high age, we had youth groups and stuff. Did a lot of Bible reading. I've said whether you're religious or not, whether you're of Christian background or some other faith, one of the books that I highly recommend that was there throughout all this period, there is a book called The Picture Bible, and I've talked about it before. It's like a comic book, but it deals with all of the Bible stories of the Old Testament. Gives kind of a high-level overview of the Psalms, Jesus' life, and I believe the Acts of the Apostles, through the book of the Acts of the Apostles, and it doesn't get into any of the epistles or the letters to. Oh, that was the water channel. This one we want to switch. Hey, that worked out well. And this poor tree, it's going to get very well trimmed, but we wouldn't want the crops that grow beside it here to be shaded until we can move that and square everything away. We'll keep that in case we can lure bees somehow. I don't know what that would look like exactly, but we'll hold out hope. Okay. There we go. So back to books. Yeah, lots of different classics. Some definite favorites. The Count of Monte Cristo, and I had a double paperback works of Sherlock Holmes. So the novels, a lot of the collections. I think it's the complete works, but I'm not sure. I read some Shakespeare and a little bit. I've never been a super Bible reader in the just sitting there reading chapter and verse, any of that kind of level. But this picture Bible that I talked about helped me understand the stories, how they fit together, and kind of the timeline of the Old Testament, who the characters were, where they all were. So I had some context all along, and that certainly helped. So a lot of that kind of stuff fit in too. And of course, as all that's going on, there's scholastic reading going on as well. You get, assignments for English or whatever, where you got to read this book or that book. And being that reading didn't feel like a chore because I did it on my own a lot, those became easier and fit in a lot. So this is where we've got work to do. We've got to cut another chunk and another double field to get our probably what's going to be potatoes and carrots fit in. We'll do wheat and beets because we'll need the wheat early on for animals, and we've got a lot of beet seeds too to get started. These will become the melons and the pumpkins. Jump over another 2, and this is what I'm trying to do here to get our range defined before we wrap up. Even if we don't have, let's put these in so I don't lose track, because I like to do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, this would be our water. This will probably expand a little bit as you guys are now familiar with the layout. These become an edge, and 4 for the other field. So that's how far at a minimum we have to go. And I don't want to come back for a double field because, as you can see, it would be pretty tight at a minimum. We've already got some filling in to do here and any other edge. I mean, just having a boundary there is one thing. If we want to expand it out, though, I would put bees on that side, although the water is not real good for the bees. So, yeah, I'll leave that as is. So yeah, back to the books. The midst of some of that expanding horizons, I also was getting a few one-offs of some different styles that I hadn't read a ton as a child, but kind of intrigued me, at least planted a seed of interest that I followed up on in later years. And those were sci-fi and fantasy. I think I only had a single fantasy book in my real childhood, at least one that stood out, and I don't remember the name of it exactly. And it was young adult stuff anyway, right? It wasn't deep sci-fi. I did get a few of these in high school that I'll certainly talk about, or for sci-fi. But for fantasy, I really think about the only one that stood out to my mind, and I wish I remember the author or the title better, but it was Dragon Slayer. I don't think that's right. I think that's a more widely known or established title. But it was this book about a girl who, fantasy realm, whatever it was, there were dragons, and all the big tough dudes and all that rolled up and took down dragons, and often got cooked as a result or whatever. Well, somehow she learned to make this fireproof paste. A fairy godmother or what, something taught her to make this goop that was basically a balm that would keep you from. I mean, she discovered a book, right, recipe or whatever. But she alone learns this means to keep dragons from cooking her, and has to go fight dragons, and ultimately save everybody. and I honestly I don't remember who it was or what the series, if it was a series or what. I would absolutely love to go back and find out what that book was, and see how awful or good it was. I don't know. Um, but as a kid, it stood out. I think just because of the scarcity. I remember seeing The Hobbit as a kid at like a children's theater kind of deal. We took a school field trip or whatever to go see this production. And, daytime, probably a lot of kids and all that. I don't know what the exact deal was around it, but um, I remember going to see it and not really being current with that. I hadn't been exposed to Tolkien at all. Didn't just never had The Hobbit and never knew about it. So fantasy in that sense never really registered too much for me. And that was the one book that I think just stuck in my mind because it had nothing to compare to as I was growing up. The others, the other genre, I kind of childhood reading wanted to talk about was sci-fi. And again, now sci-fi and fantasy, some of my absolute all-time favorites fall into those categories. And in terms of fictional reading, I'd much rather read those than some, like pseudo crime. And Stephen King is an exception because his horror isn't, like just pandering gore. He puts so much depth in it that it rivals some of the masters that I think I've found from sci-fi and fantasy for creating worlds that are fictional but adding depth of detail. I think when authors take on fantasy or sci-fi, they're forced to think about what do I need to do to make this world believable and not seem shallow or false. Whereas when you're writing realistic fiction, whether it's actiony type stuff or whatever the case may be, a drama or a romance or a mystery, you don't necessarily need it. You can kind of gloss over the details of the world. Um, I think the greats in some of those other genres take on that challenge freely. And they may not be the details you would expect to put in, or if you were writing, you would think about illustrating that way. But I've really found those. So as a kid, I had relatively very limited books because I'd have these series, in your family and things. I don't know how others went, but I didn't get money for gifts or anything like that. Even growing up, my aunt and uncle and my grandparents and all that, my parents, they would give things that they knew I was interested in. So you kind of get associated to these various appropriate gift item type things, and sometimes it would be nice clothes and that kind of stuff that would have a value and be appreciated. But otherwise, it was, and when it came to, oh yeah, we can throw in a book, something he'd like, then they knew, like, oh yeah, go find a Louis L'Amour book. That's something he'd like, or Hardy Boys or whatever as it was going through. So um, those kind of got typecast, right? And it was like, oh, okay, those are the things he's into. So it self perpetuates, and you wouldn't get the exposure in the same way. If I had a few extra bucks or something like that, went to a bookstore, I was more likely to get stuff that I already knew. That at the time I just didn't understand the whole go ask somebody what's a book that's outside of what I had. And of course, school helps you open up your eyes to books that you otherwise weren't familiar with. That really becomes more of a high school thing for any depth of literature. But we didn't have Harry Potter and stuff like that when I was a kid. So it was, what I kind of, I guess, disparagingly think of as young adult fiction, the stuff that's written for kids, as or publishers go, yeah, we can take this kind of mid-tier work and market it for young adults, because any adult that tried to read it would be like, this is awful. I can't stomach this. There's no detail. The details don't all fit together, but we'll pass it off on kids and they'll do it, and make Tommy have a crush on Sally and ask her to the dance, and it'll get titters, and everybody will want to read it. Oh, that reminded me. It jumps over all the Beverly Cleary books. Remember all those? Are those still a deal? Do they still go? Super Fudge and Ramona Quimby and the Mouse and the Motorcycle. All those. Oh man, they were great as a kid. Anyway, tangent. We moved past that. So I had a couple of sci-fi books on my shelf as a kid. I had Arthur C. Clarke's is it Songs of Rama or Songs of Distant Earth. I can't remember now. I've read a bunch, and I don't remember how they all fit together. I think they're all part of the same kind of series. I think that was really the first sci-fi I ever had. And my dad, when he saw, oh, you're kind of into that, he had Ray Bradbury's Martian Chronicles, and said, "Oh yeah, well, if you like sci-fi, these are good little short stories." So I'd read those pretty early on. And I should say, in addition to that, I've been remembering what I had as my own books. My parents had a whole bunch of books, and as they were kind of like, yeah, you'd probably be interested in that. They'd say stuff. So Hemingway pretty early on, I read a lot. Farewell to Arms and For Whom the Bell Tolls. For Whom the Bell Tolls as a little kid was not a little kid, but probably junior high, early high school was one of my favorites. Again, enough action to hook you before you really read the human depth. What all are they confronting or dealing with? What's the deeper meaning? But on the surface level, oh man, it was great as a kid. So why am I? Well, first of all, I hope it makes you think about what books you have read or are currently reading, and are there any that you've kind of not thought about in a while, like old friends, or like you move, you lose contact, you kind of, oh man, I haven't thought of that person in ages. I wonder how they're doing. Same goes with books. Sometimes it's like, man, I haven't, it's just my tastes have drifted or moved. Well, that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy those. I wonder if I picked one up, and especially some of the easy, page turner type stuff. Yeah, you could throw one back in the mix and go. I like to talk through these in commentary, even if none of you guys are listening. If you're all jumping forward, well, you missed out on Skelly Creeper games. But it also reminds me, oh yeah, remember when I'd read that? I really loved that at that age. I wonder if that would stick up, like that fantasy book I can't think of the name of. Might try to go. I don't know how I would find that. Googling might be tough, but if any of you guys are fantasy readers, remember a book from kind of young adult type readers about, and I don't remember character names or any of that kind of stuff, and I would only guess at authors, and it would be so corroded by all the tainted, I guess, by all the sci-fi I've read since, that I'm sure it would be wrong. So, I don't know. If you guys think of that or have favorite books or memories that you've thought of having watched this, throw them in the comments, man. I as much as I love games and all that, love reading it and love to hear what other people think. If you just tolerate or enjoy reading, drop in there what you're currently chewing on or some favorites from your childhood or past that they're like old friends you like to check back in on. So I think we're getting closer here on this episode. Let's just check the time. 46. So we got just under 15 minutes, and that's kind of why I'm plugging away here. Clearly, we need to go back underground. We need to get more coal, more cobble, all that to go into our build, and we'll clearly need to go back to the dark forest too to get more wood for the trapdoors and all that. So lots to go. Now the good news, we can use pretty much anything on the interior of the dark rooms, and that's helpful. You know, it can be uncooked cobble or dirt or whatever. We've used a lot of this dirt, so we'll see if we have extra. You know, can't be gravel or sand; those will fall. But any other junk blocks we can use to kind of quickly speed along. So we're only a few episodes, I think, from really knocking out that darkroom spawner. I just want to have all the pieces ready to go when we do. Unfortunately, it just means I think we need to do a bunch more cooking. We do have the fortune pick, which will be a big help. But we're gonna have this hillside to work down, and I think we need to go back and dump some of this dirt. I don't know. I guess what we can maybe do is fill some of this stuff in. Oh, we need to fill in this corner regardless, because we'll need to have that. Let's fill this hole. Can never tell if that's... I think that is the sun going down. So often I think that, and it's like, oh no, you're just catching the light from the water biome as opposed to the land. It makes it seem darker. Yeah, I think we got it. So yeah, we'll definitely want to fill in that edge to use some of the dirt, but I think we'll come out ahead on dirt by the end of it all when it's all said and done. There. More of these. More apples. Let's do one more round here. So finish out this episode. We did already empty those furnaces. It's kind of harvesting. So yeah, just I guess, you know, as we wind this little bit up or wrap it up, more creepers. Should we creeper farm some of this? I don't think it's worth it. I think he's just going to be a pain to try to maneuver and not that effective and blah, 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 blah. Now, hopefully nothing's coming out of these woods. I should kind of, before I just put myself in a blind corner, give him one more look. So as we wrap this up, I read loads of stuff now. College was history and all that, but as I said, I kind of late, more as a college-aged adult, really came to sci-fi and fantasy as really one of my favorite literary genres. I still love nonfiction, whether it's kind of uh, ways that we view the world, intellectual kind of stuff. There's no it's philosophy or stuff like that. No, I love. Hey, buddy. Uh, I like some philosophy, some natural history, some of the writings of like Paine and some of the revolutionaries and stuff in American history. Getting into the heads of people that changed the world. What were they thinking, or what were their motivations? What was their what drove them to action or dissatisfaction enough to move? And then did that change? Did their voices get modified as their circumstances moved? That's a part of the real history and the stuff that I studied in school that uh, has more depth through reading. But anyway, again, I like nonfiction. I read a whole bunch of stuff, wide ranging, um, and don't expect to stop. For instance, for about a year now, I've been working on the nature books of John Muir, um, which I think are really cool. Um, and I think I was trying to think the other day. There's another writer that wrote here in Colorado. Was a kind of a post-pioneer, but kind of the late mountain man kind of guy in the Estes Park area. And I think it was John Mills. I want to say there's a Mills Lake that I believe was named for him, but I think he's the writer that I recall reading. And uh, those kind of guys, how our views on nature have changed from what their views on nature were. And these were the early pioneers of conservation, of the idea that they were so enmeshed in a world of natural resources are the things that you exploit. That's what humans do, and how we succeed as a species. To the point where they could first begin to see a time when it couldn't just be outright exploitation. What At what point do you need to go tap the individual on the shoulder and be like, your individual efforts combined with everybody else's are gonna fully eradicate this? And Muir grew up through an age when at the time clouds of passenger pigeons would roll overhead, or at least was contemporaries with people who could account for that. And as he was writing as an adult, they were extinct. They had fully been removed from this earth semi-consciously and deliberately, because at the time there were so many of them that they were considered a pest. You kind of, as a kid, I remember thinking that mosquitoes. Why can't we just get rid of all mosquitoes? That would make life so much easier. There's nothing good that comes out of mosquitoes. Well, they feed a whole lot of other species. For one thing, their larvae in the water. All those fish that you like to eat out of rivers and things, they wouldn't be around. Birds and bats and other good animals that help us out, mainly because they eat the mosquitoes. But they wouldn't have a food source if it wasn't for mosquitoes. So you these were the people that were learning. Everything is connected, and spiritual people were saying this for ages, but um, in a rational, scientific sense, people were just waking up to this idea that, yeah, you take out all the trees, then a bunch of species that rely on those for their home are gonna go away. And this was the time when people were like, hey, if it say it was the Royal Society in London, they were kind of the first as Magellan and others were circumnavigating the globe. They'd bring back all these scientific samples and put them in the Royal Museum in England. Sure, at the time, they had colonies, and the whole empiricism system. We now look back on and go, you didn't exactly have the right to just muscle in on the world, but that was the world they lived in, and they brought back the treasures of the empire to their capitals. And France certainly did the same thing. Germany, Holland, all these places. That was the way the world worked at the time. So I'm not condemning people 200 years, 300, 400 years after they lived for something that we weren't a part of. You just, as a historian, you can't do that. That's not how it works. You have to view things in context. But in context, watching as some of the early naturalists awoke to the real fragility of our world, our global ecosystems and biosphere, and the idea that if you just go mashing about and not having any regard for the things around you, they'll be gone before you know it, before you've really stopped to consider what those ramifications may be. So that early voices like that nowadays, we toss climate change and things like that as a political hot potato, and everybody has different ideas of environmentalism, almost to the point where they don't respect the idea that nature can adapt or can function very well without humans. At the time, it was humans are small. There's no way we can have. The world is so vast. There's no way we can have an impact, and they already were. So I love all that kind of stuff. Again, though, I read a lot of nonfiction. That covers that. But sci-fi and fantasy really have grown. And in sci-fi, Alastair Reynolds, is it Terry Goodkind? I think is another. Obviously, Asimov. Amazing. Frank Herbert. I know the trailers have now started for the new version of Dune. If that movie succeeds in some ways where the 80s version with David Bowie and I forget the guy's name. Sorry. Again, you guys, anybody who's watched knows I'm horrible with actor and actress names and stuff like that. But if this new version of Dune does the books justice, that could be the 20 years later version of the Lord of the Rings movies in bringing an author to light that most people, are like, who? The Dune universe, again, it's so different from most everything else, but really, really, really good stuff. So recommend those. But again, I want to say Terry Goodkind is a fantasy author. And do we already get leads here, by the way? Let's run back to bed, check. We'll bring back the boat if not. Get his. As we wrap up this episode, we are at the end, but now we did not. So we'll sleep, pick up the boat, go get him. Couple more pieces of coal there. Every little bit helps. Um, yeah, man, I gotta come up with that name. Now I can't even think of the series of books. But it was kind of fantasy science fiction. I think I discovered kind of college aged. Um, totally eluding me. I don't know. Let's do this. I'm gonna mute y'all as I wrap up. If you guys are out, thank you so much for coming by. Feel free to drop. I'm gonna go run and check the name of that author and the book series. So you guys enjoy. Have a good break. If you need to, I will wrap this up. But I'm gonna mute and come right back with the name of those books because they were really favorites of mine. Long series universe stuff before I got it. So hang on one second. I'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Thanks so much for your patience. If you're still hanging out, Tad Williams is the author. Otherland is the 4-book series. Um, First, really multi-volume sci-fi. I guess Asimov's Foundation and stuff. But that, by the time I was reading it, it was pretty dated. Some of the latest stuff came out pretty contemporaneously with my childhood, but I didn't read a lot of that until much later. So, but Tad Williams' 4-book series called Otherland, pretty good for I would say young adult readers. A lot of the characters are focused on some younger folks and how they fit in. Can be kind of dark at times, um, but really cool and some good ideas that give depth and then has enough variety through it so that it feels kind of broken up into shorter stories. Big fan of that series. Got me a lot. And that led to, at some point, my Tolkien reading hit got through Lord of the Rings. I think Fellowship and the Two Towers all on one business, an extended business trip of about a month, um, and then jumped into Return of the King right when I got back, and absolutely, again, the paperback versions I had of those first, I've worn through. I've read it on my phone. I read it on my Kindle again. The Hobbit goes along with that, and I just recently got a hard copy of the Silmarillion. I've been exposed to a lot of the stories, but I've never read that all the way through, so that's on my to-do list. Absolute monster author. Tolkien is the god. It's so tough to throw the superlatives on it unless you absolutely are opposed to fantasy. He is an absolute must. His depth and his world, everything I talk about with Minecraft, it comes out of that or it fits into that. He had this world moving around in his mind that was so rich and nuanced. It is absolutely incredible, and can't recommend strongly enough. But after all that, I came back around as an adult and read all the Harry Potters. Those were coming out, and quite the rage. Very, especially early on, very light. You can blow through the first couple books in a night. They're lightweight, designed for young readers, but I love the way J.K. Rowling increased the depth and the content, the maturity of the subject matter as the kids are moving up through school and as her audience was growing up as well. The first, passionate hardcore Harry Potter fans were all little kids. At first it was a kids book, and it caught fire and blew up by the time she'd written about 3 or 4 of them. And then, the whole world wanted to know. And by the time she was finishing, the movies were already coming out, and the rest is history. But caught up with those before I then caught up at all with the Game of Thrones series, which I've certainly enjoyed as well. Myriad of others. There's all kinds of samplings, but those are some of the monsters. Hope you've enjoyed the book talk round 2. It's certainly fun, but I've loved having you guys. In our future episodes, just to wrap things up, we will need to go back underground. We'll probably do a caving episode. We need to go to the woods and get more logs. So we're bringing those back, but we're getting close. At some point here, we'll also get crops planted. Again, we don't need them for the enchanting, but we need a few more levels. And really, we'll just be waiting to set up villagers for that. But we'll do Darkroom well before that. That's next on our list. So we're just ticking off the list as we go to get stone cooked with coal, all the other goodies that we find as we go. But caves and caving, we've got the cave on the surface. Maybe we'll do that one next. That's all to come. Keep checking back, likes and comments. Always, even if I'm not talking about it, if you got a cool book or something you just discovered, throw it in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, take care of yourselves. Take a good break. This may do it for me. I've got some plans here. It's kind of moved on into afternoon type time. Don't know if I'll be back this evening. Kind of doubt it. But we'll kick off the week and be back with more hardcore vanilla Minecraft before you know it. You guys take care of yourselves. We'll see you back here soon. Bye now.